Hey guys, good evening. Let me just make sure the stream's going here. Alright, it looks like we're doing good here. Okay, so welcome back for day 3. As you can see over my shoulder here, Robbie is currently sitting up on top of a welding table. He's actually figuring out our hanging mechanism. So what we're going to talk about for the next few minutes here is that basically just where we're at. So to give you guys just a little bit of background about our team, all of us met back in high school back in about 2002 to 2004 era. We were all on different Florida teams. Dan was on 710, which is now 744 in South Florida. I was on 21 over on the East Coast. Andrew was on a Miami team, 212, which is now defunct. And we started 1902 together a few years ago. And so a lot of the guys that you've been seeing the past few days coming in and going, they are just buddies of ours, people we've known for years, worked at regionals with. If any of you are from Florida, you've probably noticed most of the faces come through here, which has been a kind of a fun experience that teams have been supporting us and just bringing us food, bringing us PWM cables, bringing us whatever we need basically to make this happen. So it's just been a really nice community thing, and it's fun, and it's cool hearing the feedback, and hopefully a lot of you guys are getting ideas out of this. So to kind of recap where we're at, what we ultimately found here was, when we came in, we said, we're going to do a 3-day project. What do we need to do? And to do that, and just like you guys should be in your 6-week project, we said, what can we do? We have what we have in this small 12 by 12 shed back here, what parts we plan for, and a game. We don't know what to do. And most of you guys are in a similar spot. You're working in an elementary school, a high school, some sort of small room that probably doesn't have that many resources. So what we've tried to do is pretty much use everything that you probably would have here. Now we've cheated a little bit. We have a Bridgeport here because Robbie happens to have one, but we haven't done anything crazy. We've just been doing basic milling. We've been using a brake for cutting metal, so we've used a few things that sped up the process. But ultimately, it's stuff that you guys could do with high schoolers, whether you are a high schooler or your mentor. So what we've been trying to do with these videos posting is to give you guys a lot of different ideas. So let's just talk about what we came up with. Right now, we have a four-wheel drive. Ideally, what we would do in this game is probably do mechanisms. We're thinking with this flat floor, there's really no obstacles. You've got a little bit of a 1-inch lip, not too much going on. This is probably the first real Mechanim game First has given us, where you don't really have to think about a lot of stuff with it. So that's kind of neat. For this build right now, we just have plastic wheels on there. So they're working great for us. We're probably going to have a little bit of hopping. We kind of are expecting that. We're kind of planning around that, but ultimately we're going to have a nice drivable robot. On top of that, we've finished our shooting and indexing system. We were actually testing it out earlier. We got some video. We'll put that up on YouTube later. But basically, how that's working is we have an indexer system that pulls from the feeder system at a 30-degree angle. It pulls into the shooter system. There's a wheel that allows it to come in one at a time. They drop into a circular area. And then there's a piston that pulls up into the shooter, and we have a 2-wheel system that shoots out. Now, the 2 wheels, what we found, and you can see these in our YouTube videos, we ended up going with a linear track, and the wheels are geared slightly different so that the first wheel is actually running a little bit slower than the second wheel. And what we did with that is we noticed that if we did them at the same speed, it didn't have enough grip at the beginning to get it to full speed. So by having a little bit of a differential, it kind of got the momentum going, and then it kind of spits it out. But you also get the added advantage of the fact that it's constantly consistent. So besides that, a lot of you guys have been asking about climbing mechanisms. So it seemed like once we kind of answered this question of, so how are the frisbees going to go if we're putting them in upside down, and normally how's that going to work? And by the way, if you put them upside down, we found they're mostly consistent. We talk about them more in the YouTube videos, but you can see that if you plan around, you can actually shoot these things upside down, which makes it really nice that you're not going to have to worry too much about, well, how do we pick them up? Do we have to worry about rotating them and stuff like that? If you actually make a hopper, you might skim a little plastic off of the frisbees, but they will work. So that's pretty cool. So now once we answer that question, the next question is, I need a climber mechanism, because that's a tough challenge in this game. With our process, what we're trying to do, and it's going on right behind me, is we're going to basically just go for the low bar. But we're going to try to use a system that you guys could expand on and essentially do this grappling type of system with that. Now, we looked at 2 different ways, and we're still debating exactly where we're going to go, and Dan will probably talk about that a little more because they're talking about it right now behind me. One of the ways is to use a 2-hook system with basically a slide that we would use a geared down motor box to essentially winch in, and we would just drive right up, because our indexer system sits at an angle, and we would just drive the robot this way and hit that bar, and the hooks would kind of be right here and then just pull down. The other system is an actual linkage. So we talked about 4 bars to kind of have a nice smooth movement. We talked about just a bar that comes down. And so that would just be, the same thing on your indexer. We would have this system that pulls down and essentially would hopefully hoist the robot up. The biggest problem with that is that you're running into just a lot of force on the other end when you're dealing with moment arms. So that's kind of what we're calculating right now. We were actually running the calculation about 20 minutes ago. But we did find that when you lift the robot up, there's a really cool thing that happens where if you do your CG right, which we've been kind of planning around getting to this climber part the whole time, we've tried to keep it as even as possible. If you keep your hanging mechanism kind of towards the center, you're going to be able to float and lift up and not really rotate too awful much. A lot of people are worried about hooks coming off and things like that. So what we're finding is that by planning around that early and your drivetrain and where you put your components, we're actually going to be able to adjust the battery as we go to basically level the robot out. We had about a 15 to 20 degree swing earlier, but we think that we'll probably be able to get that into 5 or 10 degrees by battery placement. So that's food for thought. Where we were at about 2 or 3 hours ago was about 72 pounds. And that was with the indexer, the shooter, the motors, most of the cables. We're finishing up a little bit of that work, but pretty much you've got a solid robot here minus the hanger. So it's, there's definitely enough room in these 6 weeks for you guys to make hanging mechanisms. And you should look into it. I think that you've got plenty of time, so hopefully we're giving you guys enough resources to see the way these Frisbees are going to work. And hopefully you guys are today and tomorrow and the next couple of days going through and doing that. But ultimately what we keep coming back to, and a lot of people say, well, are you going to make bumpers? Are you going to do all these extraneous things where, yeah, in an FRC match you need bumpers, but for our case, we're trying to show these mechanisms. And what we said is, we could try to climb to the top, but if we climb to the top, we would spend all 3 days just trying to climb. If we were to pick up from the ground, we said, well, we're going to spend 3 days trying to make a good pickup system. So what we did was we said, well, in this narrow time, and I'm saying this, think of it the same way in the 6 weeks and with what resources your students have, your machining, your engineering support, we said, we're going to keep a simple approach where we load from a feeder station and we do it reliably. We're going to show up quick, we're going to boom, 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 load, and then we're going to shoot reliably out and then go and do that multiple times. We're going to run up to that bar in the last couple of seconds if we were actually competing and pull up so that we can be that great support robot. So I think that the design that we've done here, as is, would be pretty good for essentially 88% of teams. I mean, I think that realistically, especially in qualifiers, if you can do reliability almost every year, those are the teams that are in the top 8. A lot of people think you have to be the best. In reality, you have to be the best at something. So think of it in that way as you're going forth with that. And that's just kind of what you're seeing here. And we'll talk about it more too when we do the YouTube videos tomorrow as kind of a recap. Just what worked, what's in. But ultimately, I'm going to try to start handing it over to the other guys. And Dan, you want to pop on in? You ready to pop in? Dan's machining, so we're going to let Dan keep milling here for a second. And when he's done, he's going to pop. So when he'll talk, if you have any questions, you can start throwing them out here. But hopefully that was a kind of a good overview to set him up, and he can give you a lot of the numbers and stuff like that, and he'll talk for about the next 20 or 30 minutes to start throwing your questions into the chat. All right. That's what you tell him? I just gave him an overview of everything we've been doing. Let's move to the right.
Hey guys, this is Dan. I don't know how much Mike's told you already, but we're pretty deep into it. This is our third day, coming up on about 18 hours left in our build. One of the things that I don't know if it's been advertised or not, we do have till 11:30 tomorrow to finish our robot. One of the problems is we're actually going to lose one of our most important team members because he's got to head back to work. So that is going to be interesting. Robbie's got to go back to his job making flying cars, which is probably one of the coolest jobs in the world, you could say. I'm an engineer and I make flying cars. Yeah, it's got to be top 5 things you can actually say. So I guess I need to move the microphone a little bit closer. I don't think people can hear me. I am about to fall asleep. I'm actually about as exhausted as it gets. I'm riding on adrenaline. This has probably been one of the most fun experiences that I've ever had. as a mentor, as a student. This has been a great time, but I'm used to a regular sleep schedule. It's something that kind of happens after you graduate. You just kind of move into regular sleep mode, and even with the cute baby at home keeping me awake, 5 or 10 hours of sleep over the last couple of days has not been all that great. So zone out just kind of kicked me or something. Okay, so I'm going to try to do my best to answer some of these questions. So the first question here is, how are we going to control the shooting angle? Well, we're not. It's actually going to be locked into place. We've tried to do some math on our shooting trajectory and how far back we need to be from the goals. We're going to have a targeting system that identifies where we need to be lined up to shoot them into the hoop. That targeting system is the now infamous photon cannon. We're not going to mess with cannons or anything. We're just going to stick a flashlight on top of it and aim it where the frisbees go. And as we aim that where the frisbees go, hopefully it's consistent enough to be a good shooter. It won Spam a world championship last year, and 25, what most people don't know is they ditched their camera to emulate the photon cannon, and they ended up being two of the most prolific shooters in the game last year. So that's actually the direction we're going to go. Kind of secrets out. Now, one thing I need to point out about a photon cannon is that it is, being a flashlight, is that it does require a very specific way to be wired and controlled by the robot. We are not going to follow those directions because we don't even have the first FRC regulation controls. So make sure you read the rules carefully on how you control the photon cannon or flashlight. Andy Baker was in the chat yesterday. It would be great to get more advice. Well, we're not quite Andy Baker. Andy Baker is on the next level. He's kind of the robotic Chuck Norris, if you will. Andy Baker doesn't enter chat rooms. I don't know, there's something there, but let's see. Climbing mechanisms. Okay, everybody's wondering about our climbing mechanism. And the case is at 6 o'clock, we're still wondering a little bit of ourselves. We've done a little bit of math. And what we're doing is we're going to try to hang from the closest one bar. We're only going to enter zone 1. We want the 10 points. We see the purpose of going for 20 and 30. That's going to be really paramount if you want to be one of the top level teams. But we think that there's going to be too many mechanisms tried at those levels that are not going to be successful, and they're going to take too long. So you're going to dedicate an entire game to it. Maybe that's okay. But what we're going to do is we're going to make a winch system. We could do this with pneumatics, and I want to just stress how big that is. Pneumatics would probably be the easiest way to do this. Just lift straight up. The problem is, being that we're only building a robot in 3 days, we don't have the pneumatics we need to actually have a piston the bore size to lift it straight up in the air. You would probably need 1 or 2 2-inch cylinders. I forget what that is, like 188 pounds, but you could do a quick chin up on a 2-inch piston. You just have a little hook, come over the bar, grapple it, and up. Make sure you're balanced. Play with your battery position to counteract any of your shooter mechanisms. Again, the problem is we do not have a 2-inch bore piston. We don't have anything with the stroke that we need. So we're kind of out of luck. We got to build a winch system, and that's what we're doing. Right now, we're going to actually have a lever arm, if I can try to emulate this. We've got it drawn up on the whiteboard back there, but I can't really bring it out. And we're going to just run into the bar full speed, and then we're going to rotate that bar down by pulling on the winch. And this end, being the back end, is going to be fixed to the robot, and it will carry it up. It swings on that pivot, and we've already tested our center of gravity, and it happens to be pretty well in line with where we need to pivot. So we're going to finesse that with our battery placement, and we'll see how we do. I mean, we don't really have a whole lot of time to prototype it and get it working, but we're gonna make our best attempt at it. Oh, okay. That's a great question. Please explain why we changed the Frisbee shooter design. All right, so the real answer that is actually probably not as friendly as it's going to sound, but it's just a packaging problem. We have an 8-inch wheel, and we were even looking for a 10-inch wheel at the time, and we have 11 inches on each side. So you need to have 11 inches on your entry, and you need to have 11 inches on your exit if you're going to do a full 180. So now if you just start adding that up, you have 10, 11, 11, 22, 8 is 30 inches wide, and then you need to have some structure. The structure could be as narrow as possible, but we didn't feel like that we could execute the series in a quick build like that. So what we wanted to test was if we had a linear shooter, which was a little bit more friendly to this year's packaging because they want the smaller robots, would it be shooting similarly as far, and would it be similarly as consistent? And we think that it is. It's actually pretty consistent. The only problem is that it takes 2 motors. So it fits in a long rectangular chassis, and it indexes with our hopper system very well. So there's a couple ways I think that we could have executed the one-wheel curve shooter, which was if you have all of the Frisbees stacking up, one by one by one, and then you change direction, you can probably get the angles you need to exit from the bottom of your robot. That would have been a clever solution. I think we're going to see a lot of those robots, and I think they're going to be really successful. But it just purely amounted to a packaging solution. It has to fit in the first regulation size. You could also go a wide robot. Wide robot would have been fine. We didn't even have the stuff here to do a wide robot. So that kind of is that. All right, so I got a couple questions. Can you think of any ways a robot could reach the 3rd level of the pyramid? Well, we talked it quickly early on, and then I kind of dedicated most of my brain power to try to get the actual packaging done. I would say that some sort of climbing bot. There's a lot of ladder climbing examples out there. No spam. Yeah, sorry guys. Just to let you know, we can ban you, so just be careful and be gracious, professional in the chat. Just wanted to throw that out there. One of the coolest ways that I envision, I don't know how anybody will pull this off, I hope somebody does, would be kind of like the stair stepper robots that have the front of their drivetrain actually angle up. And if you could figure out how to latch onto that first one and then just bridge all of the pyramids by driving up and having some sort of extension, that would probably be the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life. I don't know if anybody would solve that way, but that would be a brainstorming way to do it. As far as simplistically, probably the simplest will have a series of pneumatic pistons that are dedicated in series, but it's going to take time because you're going to have to fill up air. I mean, you get more storage capacity than you used to in the old days, but probably just a way to actuate those pistons down and pull up, another one out and pull up, and you could almost monkey bar it up the way. Pneumatics is going to be the most power density for that type of packaging. You could do a winch with a gear system, but those are often going to take some sort of custom-made gearbox. There's not really a lot of off-the-shelf pulley solutions right now for a winch setup anyways. So pneumatics probably be the way to look at it. Or maybe a pneumatic assist with a winch could be a potential to, press out with a piston, winch it back in with a winch, release the winch, piston out. I have a feeling that the super teams are somehow going to couple their climbing mechanism to their drivetrain. So that's a way to look at it too. Kind of just wrap your mind, take the four sims and somehow use those. On a scale from 1 to 10, what is my favorite color of the alphabet? And the answer to that is probably yes. How does a photon cannon work? Okay, so a photon cannon is actually just a flashlight or a narrowband LED. You can have like a magnalite or a number of other areas. I think it needs to have its power source from the robot. I need to read the electrical rules this year a little bit closer, but I think it would have a power source on the robot, maybe out of 5V or something. Don't think it falls into the non-functional decoration, but I think it's okay because a lot of people are casting green light or IR onto the non-reflective tape anyway, so this is just the same thing except for your camera's not recognizing it. It's the drivers are recognizing it, which is huge. Everything you can get, making the driving easier for your driver is big. I think we will be adding more videos after the 3-day build. I think there's just going to be too many questions out there. We obviously won't have a live stream. In fact, the live stream will probably go down tonight, and I don't think we'll have it back up tomorrow because we're actually going to change locations for our robot reveal. But there's going to be more videos. We plan to talk about a lot of other issues that come up with. First, yeah, Dan Richardson avoiding work. This counts as work too. I mean, come on, you got to be a spokesman or something. But we'll probably put out some more videos. So maybe if you guys have some ideas on things that you want to hear about or get our advice on, you can feel free to drop us a comment or on our videos or on Cheap Delphi or any of those things. We want to talk about image or how to talk with judges, a lot of the other aspects of FIRST that people don't usually get to, but maybe that will come later on in the 6 weeks or after the 6-week build. Okay, we've got the Real Dean and Woody Flowers in our chat room, which is good. How do I think a winged robot? Yeah, that would be awesome, UAV. Are you shooting from only the set key zone, or can you shoot from anywhere, like a locked-in shooter? Well, I think there's going to be an arc of a certain perimeter that locked-in shooter is going to have a distance for. It's going to have one distance for an upper, one distance for the middle, I guess technically one distance for low goal. We've been talking about shooting through the pyramid to try to get some additional distance. Apparently the angles work on that. I haven't done the math, but I've been told the angles work. So that might be one option. But a fixed is going to give you a little bit more, I guess, susceptibility to defense. But if you're in or around the pyramid, you can be kind of protected that way. No, it's locked. Our shooter is locked, so it's a fixed shooter. We have adjustability in the way that we can mount it, so we can change the angle for optimizing for whatever goal we choose to be at. But it's going to be locked, and that's a tough one for us. You know, you could make it adjustable up and down and get some really great solutions there, but we don't have the resources within the 3 days to do it that way, and we think this is going to be a really good option for a lot of teams. You know, that next level adjustability, indexing the frisbee into an adjustable shooter like that, it's going to take some thought, and it's going to take getting it right. So be very careful with choosing something like that. Maybe you might want to go with more of a simplistic design and not adjust the shooter. Remember the words of the great George Wallace: I don't need a turret because my robot turns. I don't need adjustability because it goes back and forth. It's just a train of thought. You know, you can train your drivers to adjust your turret, or you can trade your code. But then again, the super teams are going to have it. So. I'm going to take a second here and just kind of moderate our chat for a second.
Oh, hey, that's good.
The bolts they have are either a little longer or a little shorter.
You mean for the fender?
Sorry about that. Just trying to make sure that
Here's your wire rope. I also got you one Crosby, the bolt.
just banning some folks from the chat room. Apologize for that. Okay, so vision processing. There's going to be a lot better experts out there for vision processing than myself. Last year it caused a lot of problems. It takes up a lot of your processor and a lot of your system resources. Now you can do it, but it's very challenging, and a lot of the best teams struggled with it. The best targeting systems for non-autonomous mode. Now, autonomous mode, you may need it. I don't know. I don't know if you can do it, Dead Reckoning, successfully. You probably need it. You know, then again, I don't think Spam had it last year, and they're very consistent. So some of that can be in your alignment. Sorry, it's getting kind of noisy behind me. I think we're trying to build a robot. The best targeting system that I've seen is really the photon cannon, or a camera with a crosshair, where the drivers are able to look at the crosshairs on it. Don't necessarily always have time to let your robot align quickly, so it may be best to, I mean, I encourage people to try it. It's something good to prototype. Have a plan B. That's really the way I'm going to put that. Yeah, sorry, I had to sort of ban some folks here.
I'll be right back.
The Talons, the Talons so far are fantastic. The really nice thing about them is that we've been drilling over our robot and then kind of just blowing it out, but there's still some chips in there. We haven't really had to worry about them blowing up on us because they're all sealed, and their footprint is really small. You know, I'm not a speed controller guy, and I won't argue to be, but I've been very happy with them so far. The control on the motors has been great with them, with the canopy. It's been a really great option. How fast can you shoot discs sequentially? Oh, so if you've been watching our chat all day, or the live stream all day, we actually just did our first sequential launch sequence, which was you know, feed a frisbee in, let the indexer drop it into the shooter, have the piston fire it forward into the wheels. And the only problem was that we didn't have our solenoid clicked up, so we were doing it manually. But I don't know, probably one a second. If you code it in, you probably could do more than that. You could probably do maybe 2 a second. But we won't have the system control like that, so we're gonna have to do a push button operation. So I'll have to hit a button for it to load, and then for another for it to fire, and that sort of thing. How high is your shooter mounted? It's mounted about 20 inches off the ground. It's at about a 30-degree angle right now. Sorry for repeat. Will you have any type of action during autonomous periods, such as unloading, preloading discs by shooting, or maybe?
Oh, that's right. It's the
Okay, so
command.
you can autonomously code our controller, but we won't. That's probably the one biggest difference on the actual competitive side of things. We will not have any autonomous control. Just won't have. I don't know if there's any scripting. I think there's some scripting capability where we can actually do a Windows script and fire the buttons, but just. Did Modulox speed up the build? I'd like to think so. I mean, it's kind of a hard question to answer. It's just something that we're very comfortable with using. I mean, we invented the product and we've designed with it for years, so it's been used everywhere on the robot. It's a very great prototyping tool. In some cases, is it the best option for a final design? Probably not, but most applications it's perfectly fine with, and so you can always check that out, modulox.com, and we'll probably post more examples of how it can be used for this year, but it's served us well, and we haven't had any major failures with it this year, or with this build, so this has been great for us. Which goal I think we're starting for the middle goal, is that right, guys?
Middle or high. We're going to see how it really works.
Okay, so middle or high right now. It's going to depend on the distance. We get a lot of elevation, so it's pretty good. Are we using the camera or reflective tape to direct your shooting, or is the shooter accurate enough without it? Well, the shooter is independent of, so the mechanical accuracy of the shooter is pretty consistent, I should say. It's pretty precise. The driver will have control of its accuracy, if you will, and that will be governed by the photon cannon. How far from the wall will you have to stand in order to reach third goal? We're thinking about 10 to 15 feet. Is there any way you could score at the top 5-point goal or on the top of the pyramid? I think so. It's certainly adjustable, but and I think we'll probably get the height we need. Problem will be accuracy. Will it land where we shoot it? That may be a challenge. There's some strategies that I've heard out there for doing a 3 pyramid tower climb, and you dump the discs in, you get the 20 points and the 30 points for the robot in the third zone. But it may be difficult to make shots in that pyramid. In fact, I have a feeling that when it happens, we'll be really excited. It'll be more rare unless teams are dedicated to do it. So that's a thought. I mean, you've got to actually control your distance on your shot now, not just your accuracy of your shot and your angle and your direction. You actually have to control the distance to settle it in there. And maybe you hit the chains or it rings out, but I see it like getting hole in one almost. It's just going to be a little bit more difficult than people are thinking. The middle and high goals, because it's got the backboard and the chain, you can fire them in there as hard as you want, and it should slow it down and settle and score. That's why I'm thinking that the sort of three zone dumper will probably be more effective, or at least more consistent in that area.
Schedule 40. So you read it just as 1.5, but when you actually look at what it really is, when you go to the store and you buy it, no, the real feel is that it's just.
How about this on photon cannons? We're just gonna we'll update more about that. We'll have another video because it seems like there's more questions on how that will work, or maybe we're just getting spammed. Who knows? It could be just some trolls. But it's probably key to designs this year, so it may be something important for us to actually figure out how you need to do it, reading the rules, and then figuring out how it integrates with your electrical system. So we'll post something more on the photon cannons later.
We're
don't think you can dump into the third zone. You think it's too high. That may be true. Haven't gone through the rules close enough to be fair. You can't dump from the ground, but what I've been told is you can climb all the way up to the top and then dump from there. So if you climb all the way to the top and then dump from the third zone, that's where that 50-point A-bomb play comes in. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, you're already able to dump from climbing the pyramid. Ah, how does it work with belts? Yeah. Sorry, got some parts underneath me here. It could work with belts. I'd have to think about that. I don't see why it wouldn't. Now, belts would, typically flex in the center. It may actually help the traction on the wheel. You hit that pulley and it's going to be a little bit high tension, so at that point it might pinch quite a bit, where the pneumatics are a little bit more compliant, especially depending on how much air. That actually could be a really great compact way to do it. It may be even more compact than our two-wheel shooter. I'd love to see some prototypes on that. If anybody's got one, post a link on the YouTube, on the forums or something like that. That could be a really great solution. I don't know. We don't have time to prototype that. We don't actually even have the pulleys and belts that we would need. But that's a really great idea. So it's something to look into.
I had to pee really bad.
Yeah, Tombot has something that's really a key here. When we played with the other wheels, there's actually another good video out there of a rotational shooter, and they're using, I think, the high traction wheel, and they got a lot better results than we did with it, the 6-inch kit high traction wheel. The pneumatic wheel really complies as it kind of pinches around here. The Frisbee complies too because it's flexible. And keep in mind, this is not a first Frisbee. You can't actually use these. Don't buy the ones from Sports Authority. It's a bad idea. But the Frisbee complies, and you can actually see them flexing. And in some cases, that actually kind of slingshots it out of the shooter. But the pneumatic tire actually complies a little bit around it as well, which is important to get some good shooters. There's a lot of great videos out there with people who made custom wheels, and those look like they've been designed to have some sort of cup around it, and that could be great if you have the capability to make your own wheels. We could have done that, but we felt that it'd be a little bit more true to the challenge if we tried to stay with an off-the-shelf solution, and those pneumatic tires work pretty well. Can you pile them up instead of stacking them up in a row? Could save a lot of space in the robot if it's doable. We talked a lot about that. Can you stack them one on top of each other? And I think you could absolutely do it, especially if you had enough precision and control. So you knew exactly how much this one wheel would run, and then it could grab the next one as this one would plop down inside. And then you could stack them up like pizzas on top of each other. I think the problem you may have there, well, I guess if you're feeding them from the human loader, the question is are they always, I guess they're always upright. But if you're getting them from the floor, are they upside down? And would that affect your indexer? As well as, has there been any deformation where one or the other Frisbees accidentally slips through and then jams up your whole system? Can you get them back out? In the case of our indexer, it won't actually kick them back out. Once it falls into the shooter, you're done. So we really needed something that was very disciplined in its order, very easy to control. The Frisbees in gravity can't backdraft those wheels, so it ends up being pretty simple. It's a push button for us, and it really requires no feedback or control to index it. I think if you stack them, you're going to be in a little bit more of an advanced system. You may need to have some sort of photo recognition or just really keen drivers, and a little bit more precision than a push button on a wheel. Will it go alone? If you stack them up like pizzas on top of each other, will it go alone? If you push the bottom one with a piston. Well, again, I mean, it could. It very well could if you have, you know, the correct lip and edge for the next one to be blocked. So you have your second frisbee here and the edge of your shooter, and it pushes out, and as it's pushing out, the other one falls behind it and clicks. Well, that's the other problem. If you have the piston push it out, what's the other frisbee going to land on? So you actually have to kind of grab it from the sides to make sure that that doesn't happen, so the piston can retract. For example, if our piston is pushed out and then another frisbee were to actually drop in behind it, it would land on the piston stroke, so, or on the piston itself rather than in the hopper. So that could be bad. It would jam up the whole system. You'd be done at shooting for the rest of the match. So, you know, like I said, I think the pizza thing, you're going to see it all over the place, and I think some teams are going to be successful. I just think it may be a little bit more challenging than a linear solution. You know, I think you have to have a little bit more controls and checks against potential errors like that.
Oh, I can just upload it. I can give you the countdown thing. It's fine. No, I'm saying I'm wondering if I want to render. Will take like an hour?
Well, our hopper right now, if you, I think it's in the latest video, is actually above our shooter. So the shooter's below it, and then it gravity feeds into the indexer, and then once it passes through the indexer, it falls down into a catch for the shooter. A pneumatic piston then pushes that up into the shooter, and it's propelled out. So I would say above for gravity feed. It's worked well in the past for even some great teams. So yeah, I believe we are recording this video to watch it later. We may clip it up a little bit for some parts where I'm paused and watching.
We're gonna put it on YouTube.
I think we're gonna put it on YouTube. Hopefully they allow us to take a 45-minute video.
How do we shut it off once we disconnect it?
It's driving up. Oh, thank you. Got some coffee.
It sucks because I was just at the store. I could have bought one.
It's getting cold out here.
What do you need? Do you have
Is driving up the edge of the pyramid doable? Ooh, I hope so. I hope so. I mean, could you imagine some sort of just like mini bot looking robot? Someone made a 12-inch COOD bot that just kind of drove up the side and just all the way to the top immediately. And the rest of the game they played defense, or maybe they shot a couple out of autonomous. That would be the coolest thing I think I've ever seen in my life. I think I've said that twice already, so I gotta actually now rule which one is the coolest. But yeah, I don't know how you do it. I mean, you got to do the math on that one. I pull a Mark Leone on us there, but that's why we do the math. You're gonna have to really figure it out. Not an easy thing to do. Let me say that twice. It's not an easy thing to do. So if you're kind of throwing that out as a philosophy, dedicate a lot of resources to it, because otherwise you're going to end up with a robot that may not be able to do anything at all. So really, we are not planning on picking up discs, and this one we're getting a lot of questions on. We almost regret not making some sort of disc picker upper. I've seen some prototypes so far on YouTube. Okay, so I'm going to paint a picture. There's a great animation in that was put together for the game this year, and one of the robots is going through and just plunging up the discs. And there was even a prototype, I think, on YouTube. Mechanism, awesome. Whoever thought up that and got it all working, flawless. Kudos to them. Great. Plungers are epic, right? And you just want to see 100 robots out on the field just going around plunging everything, and just like rotary plunging all the way up the tower pole. That would just be awesome. But I don't. Those pick and place options are going to be difficult. you're gonna have to have really precise driver control over your robot, and just to be able to drive to an 11-inch disc on a basketball court-sized field, and just precisely into place, right? Just to try to get it there, and then chunk, up and into whatever your mechanism, and it's assuming everything else works flawlessly. It's gonna be hard. That's just gonna be a tough task. So when I talk about the plunger, I'm really talking about anything that's gonna be around to pick up or attack one individual frisbee. Now, I think that the best solutions will be ones that somehow scoop the frisbees up, essentially just by driving over them. You activate the scooper mechanism of doom. Maybe it's some sort of roller wheel that's really close to the ground, and there's another roller wheel that's maybe a half an inch up, and one hits here and the other one's spinning up, and it just instantly in. And maybe that whole mechanism just actuates down so it's close to the ground. But as you have one wheel spinning in and then one counter rotating up, I think that you may be able to get enough lift to bring it into whatever your conveyor is and bring it into your hopper. And if you have, say, a wide robot like last year, where you could just run around and pick up the basketballs as fast as you could, that may be a really great way to do it. I mean, that would be even a cool way to prototype it if we get some time, maybe in the later days.
I can feel the question. I brought snacks.
Find a coupler or anything?
Strawberries. This is Andrew Rudolph, by the way, guys. This is the Andrew Rudolph. Looking dapper.
I have strawberries.
In his first robotics. No, that's okay. You don't have to feed it to me. Ah. Okay. All right.
Hi, Internet. No one has any questions about where I got the strawberry from? Or anything like that?
I saw the videos, but it's hard to tell the difference in their flight paths. Okay, so
Hi, Jason.
there's one video where I'm standing there and I'm catching them.
Pineapple.
And it was literally like I had my hand here, and then the next one would come in and I'd lower it, and it was here, and the next one. I mean, the variation was within maybe 12 inches vertically and horizontally.
Just to give you an idea, guys, we recently tested the shooter on the bot, and about 30 feet away where they landed, they're in a group of it's about a 3-foot circle where all three landed. So it's pretty consistent, the shooter.
What state are we building the robot in? We're in Florida, which is why we can wear, short sleeves. It's actually getting a little chilly, and the crazy part about this week, and I think we're just a little blessed, is every time somebody shows up and says, "Have you guys been rained on yet? It's been pouring where I am." And then be like, "It's pouring on the way here." And then they're like, "Oh, it's pouring everywhere." But apparently we've had this little pocket that has not rained on us. So we've got an umbrella in the sky. Maybe it's the luck of Barry Bonzak. Yeah, it's probably Barry.
It's Barry's fault. He's not here.
No, Barry's not here right now, but it's probably Barry Bonzak's umbrella hat shielding us from the weather. What's up, Texas?
And just so you
New
know,
Jersey, it's cold. I know. I'm sorry.
the reason the rain matters, guys, is because we're in a tent outside. We're not actually mostly inside. You can see the structure of the tent there. You might have seen the videos last night. So you might know that, but it's very much just a tent.
We should probably tweet out a picture of what this looks like. It actually looks like a shed with a production tent in front of it, because we've got lighting and a spread of food and stuff.
A spread? You mean?
I've camped in bigger tents than both combined, so to put it in perspective.
Yeah.
He's a big guy. He needs a big tent.
When is the robot being revealed? We're shooting our reveal videos tomorrow, which should feature us driving it and all that. We're probably going to do more of a traditional video, as well as more of an explanation video with all the systems combined, and maybe do two or one. One will probably be dubstep and
He's making more work
or-
for me. That's what he's doing.
or song choice of the day, royalty free, of course. So
and also, after we're done building it, we're gonna have some local teams use it. It's gonna live at a practice space basically. So we'll release some videos as we test it if we learn things as we test with the bot over the next couple weeks.
yeah, we'll be at the Orlando Regional. We'll actually be at the South Florida Regional as well. So you'll definitely see us there. We'll be a little bit hard to miss, I think.
Very
So-
much using the Talon, Andy.
Yeah, so whoever Andy is, we are using the Talon. We talked about that a little bit earlier. I'm not going to recap too much of what we said earlier because this will be recorded and put online. We talked about our plans for climbing a little bit earlier in the chat, so we won't recap, but we're going to post the recording of this video so you can kind of skip through it and see what we talked about. We appreciate it. First inspired us quite a bit. In 2001, my team recruited me because I was 6'4" in 9th grade, and I needed to be able to reach over and put a basketball or whatever it was, a big
Soccer ball.
in a goal, and it was the 7-foot barriers. I wasn't in engineering. I wasn't really all into science and technology, math, whatever you want to say. I wasn't inspired. But I got hooked pretty quick just because of how cool the competition was. And over time, I developed a passion for engineering. I think we all have similar stories.
I got started because my brother was on another team. I didn't even go on the same team as him. He's actually in the chat there. He was on 168 and I joined 212. School was 3 miles apart, but bitter rivals. It was pretty fun.
Yeah, so it worked for us. We talk about they talk about the scholarships at the kickoff. Guys, it works. Submit your resumes or however the process works now for the scholarships. I received one when we went to college, helped pay the way, and it makes a big difference. It makes the educational experience easier. You're not worried about the money aspect of it all, and just submit for those scholarships. It's a really great option. It's another great opportunity that FIRST provides. They're not only inspiring you to go into these, they're offering you a way to go into these fields. So now you want to, and here's how to. So really take advantage of those.
Someone asked if we're going to add to the bot as the weeks go on.
We'll probably end up. We will maybe inevitably.
I think one thing we know we're going to add is 221 Robotic Systems gave us another control system, the Robot Open. It shipped late. FedEx got here late, so we're not using it right off the bat. We're definitely going to add it on and make some videos showing you guys how to use it.
Yeah, it's a cool little system.
Also, if we might work on the lifters or things like that with the teams who are going to come test with the bot. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, so the teams will test, and they may be able to use it however they need or kind of get ideas from it. We probably will tweak it a little bit. Hopefully we can get it to championships or something, so whoever's there may be able to see it, or anybody in the Orlando area. But I hope Cute Baby's mom isn't watching. But part of the reason why we are doing this is because it is difficult as a mentor to mentor for the full 6 weeks. So we figured if we compressed a lot of mentoring into 3 days, then it would really help benefit maybe a lot of folks. And so we will kind of have to return to real lives a little bit after this, go back to work, and kind of settle back in. So we probably won't have the same frequency of videos.
By the way, I mentor 2 FTC teams, so I know exactly what you're talking about with how awesome FTC is, guys. I love FTC. I'm seeing a tournament next weekend, actually.
And yes, my what do they call that, moniker, or my name on Chief Delphi used to be Studman Dan, and let me just tell you about choices you live with that you make as an 8th grader and you just say, this is a cool name, Studman, Dan the Man, or whatever, and then you registered on a forum with a bunch of people that remember you forever.
That you stick around.
This
for
one time
12
I
years.
showed up at Bacon and I said, I got this neat idea. If we go oink oink and everyone goes like pow or something, it might turn into something kind of cool. And then, I don't know. I mean, it kind of faded out. I don't think anyone knows what that oink oink thing is anymore.
Yeah, Studman it was. But yeah, that's behind me. I've matured. And so.
I mentor 5454 Dent in the Universe, and 6323 the Pink Nurple. Pink Nurple's a new team this year. Yeah, Pink Nurple.
What's going on with these FTC names?
Dent in the Universe 54. We went to the Worlds last year and won the Rockwell Collins Innovation Award. That was pretty exciting. Very tough year. They were a rookie team also last year, so it was cool. Oh, Isaac. He's awesome.
Yay, D2.
No, I was thinking that the terminal wasn't long enough.
Cute Baby was here earlier. Cute Baby's asleep, and hopefully she stays that way for Cute Baby's mama for the rest of the night. But she was here this morning, and the shop is probably not the safest place for an 18-month-old, but what was really cool as Cute Baby's father is that she, as we brought her into the shed, she pointed at the mass of aluminum on the bench and said, "Bobot! Bobot!"
She said Bobot, and of course Mike turned the camera off the 5 seconds before it happened.
Yeah, it was, "Bobot, where'd
I'm
go?
a programmer.
Bobot, go!" So I've taught her well. First couple words are robot. All right. See if we have any more last-minute questions. Is there anybody else that you guys want to talk to? She,
No.
data is such a natural thing to be said, but I think the first word she actually meant was robot. So, people want to talk to Robbie.
No one wants to talk to Robbie. He doesn't want to talk to anyone.
Robbie's an international man of mystery. He builds flying cars. He refuses to talk.
Yeah, if you guys want to see what
doesn't
Robbie does for
dance.
his day job, you can look up. Robbie, what's it called?
What's that?
Your company, iTech?
Maverick flying car.
If you look up the Maverick flying car, Robbie builds that. That's really his job.
Maverick flying car. Man, that is so cool.
It's pretty ridiculous.
What we're trying to do. We need to figure out how to get one of these Mavericks and like fly it into the Florida Regional or something, the
like
Orlando Regional, and just like
land it in the parking lot and drop the robot in the back and shoot frisbees at people.
I think UCF's arena is big enough to like land it in there. MaverickUSA.com. How many joysticks? We're using a gamepad. That's what this is called, right?
Yeah, we're just using the Logitech gamepad right now.
Gamepad.
We might add a second one for someone to index the shooter and all that stuff because we're not good at programming, so it's going to be straight.
Hey. I know what PID stands for.
But you know what it does. That's the question.
Okay, 2 thumbsticks. Yeah, so two.
Okay. Haha. Haha.
Ha 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 ha. Okay. All right. Well. Yeah, Robbie is focused. Let's just put it that way. This is his shed behind us, and it's out back behind the house in which he lives, and
We just had the conversation. It's a good thing we built here. We said that several times because there's lots of things we've pulled out of boxes under things and used parts, so it's been very helpful.
And yeah, it's amazing what he's actually has over the years and the things that he's been able to learn how to do.
Man, we got some educated people in here. They know our whole story. We could just shut it off and let you guys talk to just turn it on and talk to each other.
Well, we've covered most of the stuff that they're asking about. The climbing mechanism we covered earlier. This has all been recorded, so we are gonna post it on to YouTube or to our site if YouTube won't take it.
And I'll be putting a video up soon, another video, just to show you our progress on the climbing mechanism right now.
We don't have anybody working on software directly, but some of us do have programming experience. Just we're more mechanically inclined. If there are specific questions, though, we may be able to point you towards the right way, the right direction. So you can leave those on Delphi. I'm sure lots of people will be willing to help you there. So chiefdelphi.com is a really great resource. We use it frequently to try to get ideas and inspiration for some of these things. All right, well, guys, unless you guys want to talk to anybody else, and probably not Robbie at this moment because he's in crunch time trying to get this hanging mechanism underway. We're probably going to pass it back to Mike. He's going to close it out for the evening. And then we're going to go back to our normal stream. I don't think we're doing another one of these again tonight, are we? We may do another one a little bit later, just depending on how the viewership goes. But if you're interested on how photon cannons work, climbing, what our strategy for climbing is, floor pickup, general information about us, it's all earlier. So as soon as we get this up onto YouTube, make sure to go back and just watch that video and try to get everything you can out of it. Hopefully it's been a little bit helpful for you guys.
And if you guys subscribe to the YouTube channel as we put up the videos, you'll be notified. So we're going to be still continue putting up videos today. The rest of the night we'll put maybe one or two more up tonight, and the big unveil video tomorrow. Yeah. Oh, you guys want some fruit? Is that why? All right, bye guys.
All right, guys, we're going to switch back. Oh, I saw City last time. All right, guys, we're going to switch back to the other feed. You're going to have the wide view. We might come back on later and just kind of have more of a fun, joking type of thing like we did last night. Well, we were doing it in the chat. But so stick with us. We'll probably be here all night, so you can be here with us and get that kick about 5 weeks earlier. So we'll have the other camera on. You can send your questions in. We're going to be kind of in crunch mode, so we might not answer them right away. But you know, we've had a lot of people that have been following with us, so hopefully they can, and we'll get to you guys when we can, and we'll post this hopefully in the next 20-30 minutes. We'll get it uploaded so that you can go through it if you came midway through. All right, thanks guys, it's been great. Thank you for all the support.